How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Tyler Warlow and I go by The Mengineer. I make videos on how to improve your life by improving your confidence, capabilities, and overall happiness. I'm sure that's something a lot of y'all have heard of being in the personal productivity and self-improvement space is that you should always seek to continue learning. And there's tons of videos out there about how to do that, whether that's reading books, taking courses, or trying to learn new skills. But there's not a whole lot of content out there talking about how do you consistently make that a habit and keep yourself from getting burnt out or bored of the process of continued learning. In today's video, I'm going to talk about my top 5 tips that I use to make continued learning a habit. So let's jump into the video. My first tip is going to seem a little self-explanatory, but trust me and bear with it. It's start with something that interests you. Tell me if this scenario sounds familiar to you at all. As a kid, you used to read all the time, but as you got into high school and college, you were forced to read all these books that you really didn't care about and go through either analyzing them and understanding what the author was talking about, or having to understand them just for the educational purposes of your classes. This took away all the enjoyment that you got out of reading, so you stopped reading for personal enjoyment altogether. This is exactly what I personally went through. But if you take a look at my video where I talk about my goals for 2023, which I'll link in the description down below, I actually talk about how one of my goals was to read more and try and read a book per month. I've managed to achieve this goal by picking up books that were actually interesting to me. Books on self-development, on business, on self-reflection, and as a result, I've actually found myself reading more than my personal goal, starting to read close to 2 books a month. By taking courses or learning things that are interesting to you, you'll find that you get much more enjoyment out of them, and you'll find yourself applying yourself to that learning much more. When you're learning something, there's always going to be points that are hard or tedious to get through, but by pursuing something that's actually interesting to you, you'll find it much easier to push through those moments. Speaking of stuff that interests you, if you find this video interesting so far, be sure to leave a like and subscribe and join me in this self-improvement journey. It helps the channel out a lot and helps the videos to reach other people. But my next tip is going to be start small and be consistent. This is a topic that I've covered on multiple videos on this channel. It is incredibly important to build consistency when you're trying to build habits, and that holds true in this case of continued learning. All the time you'll see people who set these really lofty goals and jump into the deep end, so to speak, but then they fall off the wagon when just simple life circumstances get in the way because the goal was so large that as soon as life happens, it's impossible to consistently achieve that. For example, let's talk about people who want to learn guitar. Guitar is one of the most highly sought after instruments to learn, and a lot of people will buy a guitar and set themselves a goal of trying to learn for an hour a day. This is great, but when it's not your priority, an hour a day quickly becomes very difficult to achieve. What would actually be more beneficial for someone to do is set a small goal of maybe 10 minutes a day and aim to hit that every single day of the week, rather than inconsistently hitting this 1 hour per week goal. 10 minutes might not seem like a lot, but it's enough time to finish a lesson, practice a scale, or even finish a few pages of a book. As long as you're making progress and it's consistent, that's what you want to aim for. My next tip is going to be take advantage of free resources when you first start learning something. There are so many resources out there nowadays that you can use to learn things for free. You can easily Google how to do things, look things up on YouTube, or ask ChatGPT to help develop you a learning plan. There are even colleges like Harvard that have put some of their courses, like their coding courses, online for free. When you're first trying to learn the basics, just stick with the free resources because there's a high likelihood that someone, somewhere has created some sort of free resource that you can use rather than you chalking up a lot of money trying to learn just the fundamentals. Now, if you find that you've moved past the fundamentals and you're still interested in taking whatever you're learning even further, maybe you're in those intermediate stages or you want some guidance on how to apply some of the things that you've learned, that's when you can kind of start moving more into the paid content. But trust me, in the beginning, free resources are all you really need. For instance, I learned how to edit videos just looking up things on YouTube. I'd be curious to know, have any of y'all tried learning something new and managed to learn it for free or on your own? Please let me know down in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your stories. But moving on to tip number 4, create a dedicated space where you can focus on your learning. I made an entirely separate video where I talk about my top tips for focus, which will either be at the end of this video or linked down below if you want to check it out. But to provide a quick overview, if you're constantly being distracted by things like your phone, or say you have some sort of TV show in the background, it's going to do a couple things. First, it's going to take you longer to finish whatever it is that you're working on. And second, it's going to make it much harder to retain whatever you did learn. By creating a dedicated space for your learning, it's going to help you to retain that information much better. Again, if you want more detailed information on how to do that, I'll have that video linked down below, or it will be at the end of this video. But finally, moving on to my last tip, join clubs or groups that are dedicated to whatever it is that interests you. In these clubs, there's going to be other people who share these similar interests to you. And being around other like-minded people can offer a range of benefits. For instance, if you find yourself getting discouraged or demotivated, those people around you can help to lift you up and encourage you. Additionally, you're all getting excited about the same thing, which can be incredibly motivating. I'm trying to learn Japanese, and when I find other people who are also trying to find a language, it's incredibly fun and exciting to talk to each other about our experiences. Other people can teach you things about the subject that you may not have known yet that could make your life infinitely easier. For instance, let's say you're in a photography club. Someone else might be able to show you some shortcuts or some settings for your camera that make your pictures turn out a lot better that you previously never knew about. And finally, by being around other people, it gives you the opportunity to teach others something. And this is one of the most effective ways to learn things. By teaching other people, you're cementing the content that you've learned in your own mind as well. And finally, by being in a club or organization with other people, you can just have fun with it. You can make it something that's a lot more casual and less formal, which helps to take the stress of continued learning off the shoulders of a lot of people. All right, guys, that brings us to the end of today's video. Just to summarize my tips for you real quick, they were: start with something that interests you, start small and be consistent, take advantage of free resources when you're first starting to learn something new, create a dedicated space for your learning, and finally, join a club or group about the thing that you're interested in. But that's gonna wrap it up for the video. Again, if you found this video to be interesting or helpful at all, please be sure to hit that like or subscribe button. It helps the video to reach a wider audience, and it can help you to stay up to date on my newest videos. If you have any of your own suggestions or ideas, please feel free to leave a comment down below. I try to respond to as many of them as I can. If you're interested in more videos like this one where I talk about learning, be sure to check out this video where I talk about my top tips for focus. But if you're more interested in my more recent content, check out this video right here. But for now, until the next video, this is the Mengineer, signing off.